Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the town hall meeting for today. I'm Jim Cooper. I'm the chair of Olympia's Finance Committee. Thank you for joining us for our second in a series of town halls produced in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and sponsored by the Olympia City Council. Today's town hall, Financial Resources for Local Businesses, is convened by our Finance Committee. And I'm just going to take a moment and see, I have one member of the committee that was able to be here this afternoon, Mayor Cheryl Selby. Lisa Parsley, Councilmember Lisa Parsley is either going to join us late or not join us because she has some stuff going on at work this afternoon. Mayor Selby, any comments that you'd like to put out before we open up?
Not at this time.
Okay. Great. I just wanted to, I'll do introductions for the panel here in a second. But just wanted to thank everyone for joining. We all know that this is probably the most difficult time that you've ever dealt with in your career of managing or owning or running a small business or medium or even large size business in the city of Olympia or anywhere else. And so we feel for you, and we know that this is very difficult, and we want to do our best to support you through this time. The town hall series is planned to inform the community about the resources and assistance that are available to help those impacted by the pandemic. I'll introduce our panelists and our moderator, and then we'll turn it over to them and they can take us through the hour. First off, we have Jay Burney, our interim city manager. He will be the moderator. You won't see him on the screen, but he'll be the voice in the background that keeps us moving and brings us to the next panelist as we move through. Mike Reed will be a panelist, and he's our economic development director with the city of Olympia. We have Kaylee Purcell, the director for the Center of Business and Innovation. We have John Morosco, the certified business advisor for the Small Business Development Center. Steve Ruggles, administrator for the Washington State Employment Security Department, and Scott Michaels, legal services manager for the Washington State Employment Security Department. So with that, I'll turn it over to interim city manager Jay Burney, and he'll walk us through the hour.
Thank you, Chair Cooper. Again, Jay Burney, interim city manager. In terms of our virtual town hall for tonight, this event will last approximately 60 minutes. In just a moment, we'll hear a brief presentation from the panelists, and then we will welcome any questions from those who have logged in. There's a control panel to the right for those of you that logged in, and there's a tab that says questions. And so as we go along, feel free to type your questions. You can start typing them in right now. And then at the end of the panelist presentation, I will start posing those questions that have come up off the control panel to those that are here, and we'll answer your questions as we'll go along. We'll spend about 20 minutes answering questions, and then we'll have some closing comments, and then we will conclude at 5 o'clock. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Mike Reed, Economic Development Director for City of Olympia.
Great, thank you, Jay. So I'm Mike Reed. Again, I'm the Economic Development Director for the City of Olympia. I'm going to start with a very brief presentation just to give some context and background associated with the City of Olympia's economy and some of our response work to date. After I'm done, we'll have each of the other panelists sort of further introduce themselves and give some words as to what they do, what their organization does, and their role there with some insight as to some objectives that they want to achieve tonight. So here we go. Let me share my presentation. So just for some context, small businesses dominate our Thurston County makeup. So as you can see here, this is information, and granted, this is Thurston County. It's not just the City of Olympia. We haven't been able to find a data set that fully breaks this out specific to the City of Olympia. But what you can see here up on this right corner, there are over 4,000 businesses in Thurston County with less than 5 people. When you start looking at the volume of them that are less than 50, it's massive. In the 6,000 sort of range there. Why that's specifically important too, as well, to Olympia is that Olympia we are really an employment epicenter, frankly, for the region. You can see here that while we have a similar total employed resident population to that of Lacey, we both have about 50,000 total residents. We have 25 or about 24,000 residents that are employed. They're 21. Tumwater's at 10,000. What you can see over here to the right is that our worker population swells up to 48,000. So that means we have a very large population that comes into the city of Olympia for employment, recognizing on that previous slide that the bulk of our employment is also in small businesses. So I put that in context there because it becomes very quickly a math problem for the city in terms of how we can roll out response and resources. There isn't a deep enough well, frankly, for the city to have a big enough impact to meet that need on a business by business basis. So knowing that, our economic response is really based on we have to connect impacted workers and businesses to the available resources and those experts in those fields that can help them access and understand that information and those resources that are available to them. We also have to ensure that those local support entities that are providing those resources or helping people understand them have the ability to meet that demand, because that demand is growing massively. I think that any one of our panelists could probably tell you they have worked probably some very, very long days meeting people's questions and trying to help and guide people through these problems. So we have to help those partners be well-resourced to meet that demand, and we also have to help those partners amplify their voice so that those that are needing help can hear and know where to go. And then finally, we are working on building a regional recovery plan to ensure that all of Thurston County can get as much help as it can to emerge from this crisis as quickly as possible. Funding the recovery out of this thing is going to be very critically important. So a couple of programs specific to what the city has done. We do have some deferral programs. There is the ability to defer utility payments. B&O tax has been, your Q1 has been deferred till July 31st. And if you are a business in downtown, you most likely are in the Parking Business Improvement Area, or PBIA. Those ratepayers can have their assessments deferred to July 31st. Both the utility and the PBIA deferment do require an online certification. That information can be found on the City of Olympia's website at olympiawa.gov. Some response efforts to date. We did work with the Olympia Downtown Alliance to help them, again, sort of we have to do some voice amplification, get the message out there. There are businesses downtown that are operating as essential businesses. We need to help people find those businesses and access them. So you can go to the whyigodowntown.com. That page currently has already received over 6,000 page views. So we know that people are using that site. If you're a business in downtown, you do not have to be a member of the ODA to be listed on that site or to take advantage of that program there. Additionally, we've been working to get a regional site put up called thurstonstrong.org. It's a collection of potential resources for both businesses and workers. We do know that that one has also received quite a lot of page views. We know that people are utilizing that site. It's updated very frequently. So do sign into that and you can get updates sent directly to you. We did also fund the Thurston County Economic Development Council there to be able to get a hotline. And we do have some panelists here that have probably received or been directed a number of calls through that hotline as well. But that hotline is available Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 3:30. We know that we were hearing from businesses that they just wanted to be able to talk to a live person to get some answers and some technical assistance there. I do want to also mention that when I say the Thurston County Economic Development Council, in some ways that is a bit of an umbrella term. there are a number of partners that fall under that umbrella, specifically the Center for Business and Innovation, the Small Business Development Center. We have representatives from both of those organizations with us today. Additionally, there's the Washington Center for Women in Business and the Procurement Technical Assistance Center that operate there as well. We also put together or helped some funding to initiate a weekly business briefing. It's called Declassified. It has the Chamber and the EDC bringing together some pretty significant people to be able to provide direct information there. I actually know that, again, some of our panelists have already presented on that. And last week, actually, Congressman Denny Heck was the presenter on that, so people could ask questions directly of the congressman. I think most people are probably very aware of this, and frankly, the panelists that we have probably can speak much more astutely to some of the nuances of this, but there was the federal stimulus package that was passed. There was a lot of work to ensure that we were funding Main Street as opposed to Wall Street in this, and that's where you see $377 billion for small businesses. I think the one that the two programs out of there, or two major loan programs that most people are familiar with, but you can get more detail about that again from our panelists, are the SBA loan programs, the Paycheck Protection Program, and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Again, I'm not going to try to further explain those programs. I just put those out there as a sort of a tease because I know that our panelists can probably drive home more information about those than I can. So with that, I do want to pass over to our panelists and allow them to introduce themselves and explain a little bit more. So with that, I will start with the way it sort of looks on my screen. So Kaylee Purcell, Director of the Center for Business Innovation, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Like Mike said, I work for the Center for Business and Innovation under that umbrella over there with the Thurston EDC, and we have been helping businesses navigate this process. Happy to have our partner John Marasco on the call with us today. I think that the work that the SBA is doing has been kind of the main point of interest for folks, and I know people are eager to understand where we're at with those two programs that they're offering, and excited to have John here to share those with you. What we're personally doing right now, we do have the hotline up, as Mike mentioned. It's that 800-888 number. That is running Monday through Friday, and if anyone has questions, small businesses have questions about what resources are available for them in Thurston County, whether that's regarding unemployment benefits for themselves or their employees, the SBA programs and what relief's available, or local potential grant offerings, as well as training for your businesses right now. We are ramping up our coaches under the Washington Center for Women in Business and partnering with FBDC as we ramp up our capabilities to help people right now get loan ready. So for those folks who don't have their financial ducks in a row, their financial statements, we do offer the capacity to help get those things put together for you folks. If you need help gathering data, understanding how to put together your profit and loss and your balance sheet so that you can be eligible to apply, whether that's a traditional bank or through one of these federal programs, that we can help you with that. You can either go directly to wcwb.org, or you can call that hotline with any questions that you might have. We also partner with the City of Olympia to offer Scale Up scholarships. That's our typical accelerator program that helps businesses look at their marketing plans, their financial planning, and their systems and processes. Right now, we've taken all of our courses online. Those are scholarships through the City of Olympia at no charge to the business. And our marketing kicks off actually Friday of this week, and we've ramped it up to do a special 8-week course on how to market during these times. So if you're interested in looking at changing up your strategy, moving your sales online, and understanding what that process is like, really encourage you to check out thurstonscaleup.org to apply. And like I said, that's at no cost to you. The City of Olympia pays for that program. We also have Scale Up Consulting in that program. So perhaps you need your website kind of revamped because your shoppers are now looking online versus in person, or maybe you need a brand new website. We do have consultants that can build out a website for you or help you understand how to refresh your own. and that's also currently subsidized by the City of Olympia through some funding that they have for you as businesses within the city limits. So you can also call our hotline for more information about that, or get on our website, thurstonedc.com, and find the Center for Business and Innovation page. Under that umbrella, we can also have consultants help you with looking at your pricing model. Perhaps your expenses have shifted right now and you're needing to look at how to appropriately reprice. That's something we can certainly help you with. If you're looking for cash flow planning, I'm sure John's going to hit on your webinars that the SBDC offers, but they're offering daily webinars right now around surviving cash flow planning right now for businesses. I highly suggest you check those out. We also, I'm trying to think of all the other resources we might have available for you. So primarily looking at if you need help with your accounting, getting your books in order, you need help getting a website up or understanding how to do some of your own DIY marketing for right now, because perhaps budgets are shifting, we can help with those, and also with pricing your services. I don't know how much time I have here, Mike, so I don't want to abuse it.
Why don't we just keep going, and I'd love to hear from John. Thank you, Kaylee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Kaylee and Mike and Jay, I guess, behind the scenes there. So the SBDC, all these acronyms that the government uses, Small Business Development Centers. This is a federal program that first does not charge anything for our assistance out in the community. We help businesses that want to start, people that have businesses that want to figure out finances. We have just all kinds of wonderful services to the businesses. SBDC, we're located at Lacey. In fact, we're over housed in the CB&I, Center for Business and Innovation. Work very closely with Kaylee. Thank you, Kaylee, and your team. And if anybody is looking to get a hold of us, that hotline that they have, we've teamed up that they can forward calls to us. But just so you know a little bit more, SBDC, SBA looks over our shoulder, and we're hosted at South Puget Sound Community College. Every SBDC Small Business Development Center in the nation is hosted with a college. So it's a 50-50 proposition. So half the expenses are paid by the college, half by the SBA under the SBDC. And it is a wonderful collaboration. In the state of Washington, we have 28 offices and 32 certified business advisors. So we are all poised to help. What happened was the SBA tapped us on the shoulder and said, all right, this is not normally what you do, because again, we help businesses start and help do business plans, get people ready for going to talk to lenders. But when the SBA tapped us on the shoulder, we quickly became the go-to group, along with what it expands a little bit on what Kaylee's group is doing and their center. Our specialty has been, especially right now, working with the economic injury disaster loan and also the PPP. So I'll talk about that more as we go along. The biggest thing right now, as far as is reaching out, asking for assistance. We're willing to take you through the process. I think the interesting piece that we've picked up with the SBDC over the last few weeks is one of the SBA counselors that we talk to, because we talk to the SBA quite a bit within our organization. They say it's like having a football field right now. If you can imagine a football field with two goalposts, but what's happening is the goalposts keep moving. So everybody, as we're going through this process, it's just really trying to keep a sense of humor through this. My expertise, I moved here to the wonderful state of Washington from the US Virgin Islands, and I did that after going through 2 Category 5 hurricanes. So I've actually lived this disaster mode that we're all going through right now. And if I can, as we're going through, trust me, it will all smooth out, and you'll be amazed how it comes out in the end. So I think that's just a quick introduction. Yes, Kelly.
Did you want to pipe in about some of the webinars you guys are offering? I think they're awesome. I actually wrote down some of the titles. I could run through them if you'd like.
Oh yeah, if there's so many, if you have them right there. We just did a national webinar yesterday that was done by Google, put out through the whole country. So that was from our Washington group that started there.
If folks go to wsbdc.org, daily they're providing survival cash flow planning and also SBA loan ready webinars. So if you're confused about the two loans, what's available, how to apply, it's a really great opportunity to jump in and check that out. And also for cybersecurity. So if you've moved your business online and it's new, there's a lot of things to consider for risk for cybersecurity, and we really encourage you to check some of those webinars out. The other shout out for John and Jennifer and the local SBDC representatives here is they can sit down and work with you too and understanding which loan might be better for you at this moment and preparing your cash flow planning as advisors. They do have some capabilities there that are really impressive that I want you guys to know about.
Thank
Great.
you, Kim.
I do want to pass now to our two gentlemen from the Employment Security Department. Gentlemen, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. My name is Scott Michael. I'm the Legal Services Manager for the Employment Security Department, and I've been working on all of the rules and legal changes and all the fancy, and especially the CARES Act that has just been passed, or it feels like it's just been passed, but it was passed about 3-4 weeks ago by Congress and signed by the President. And I want to sort of run down sort of some things that the CARES Act does to help employers and the self-employed, and how folks can access those benefits and programs. So the first thing I want to talk about is benefit charging. For those who are on the call who are employers who are worried about their own employees, and they have now been set up with unemployment claims. Hopefully they've been able to collect benefits. And now you're worried about, oh my gosh, what is going to happen to my tax rate in the future? It's nice that I've got my employee set up on unemployment, but what is this going to do to my tax rate? So I want to talk about some things that you can do to help manage your tax rate in ways that you can get that reduced, and options that are available to you to help manage that. First off is I want to talk about shared work. And what shared work is it's a special program offered by the Employment Security Department that instead of laying people off completely, it allows you to reduce their hours and wages from between 10 to 50%. And so they're only working half-time for you, or they're only working 90% of the time for you, as opposed to just being completely laid off. If you're able to apply for shared work through the program and get people set up on shared work claims, what happens is that unemployment will fill in the difference for that missing 50%. So if you reduce their hours by 50%, we'll pay them 50% of their wages, of their regular unemployment claim. So you pay in 50% wages, we give them half of what they would normally be paid on unemployment, and your employees end up with more money in their pocket. And where this helps you out as an employer is not only do you get to hang on to your staff continue to work, they're not have to look for other jobs, is that all of the benefit charges associated with this are paid by the federal government. You are not going to be charged a dime for any benefits that are paid out through the shared work program. So if you are really worried about your tax rates and benefit charges moving forward, I encourage you to apply for the shared work program. There's some minimum things you need to do, such as you can't reduce hours below 50%. You have to hang on to any health plans you have with them. They have to hang on to any retirement plans you have with them. But you get all of your benefit charges paid for by the feds. Your tax rate won't go up. Second thing to be aware of is our standby program. We just adopted a rule, and by I mean just, we just, while this webinar has been going on, we just broadcast to the world on our email, and is that all folks, while work search has been waived by the governor, because the governor waived work search, so folks don't have to look for work while the governor has said so, those folks are automatically on standby. And what standby generally means is that you don't have to look for work because we expect you to return to your regular employment within a number of weeks, usually a specified period of time, which is in these days when the governor wants to reopen the economy, which we are hoping will come. At that point, so if you put them on standby and then bring them back to work, come September, you can apply for a $25 million pot of money the legislature set aside to help defray some of the benefit charges that come with the claims that are being filed. So if you have somebody on standby, which is going to be everybody while work search is waived, and you bring them back to work, you can apply for $25 million, a share of that $25 million to help defray some of your expenses and benefit charges. Also, if you are a charity or a 501c3 nonprofit, the federal government is going to allow us to give you back 50% of the reimbursements that you make. So charities, instead of paying a quarterly tax, just reimburse the Employment Security Department, or have the option to reimburse the Employment Security Department for all of the benefits that we pay out. So if we pay out benefits to your charity employees, you pay us back, the federal government will give us money to give half of that money back to you. It's a little convoluted, but what it ends up being is you get half of your unemployment benefits paid for by the feds. And then the last thing I want to talk about, which is the thing that I think most small businesses here are, and self-employed individuals on the call are mostly interested in probably, is pandemic unemployment assistance. This is special federal benefits adopted in the CARES Act that is now available to self-employed individuals. These individuals are typically ineligible to receive a state unemployment claim, and so therefore they don't get the benefit of unemployment when the economy goes in the tank, like it has now. So if you can show that your loss of business income is tied to COVID-19, and there's some specific statutory reasons, but for the most part, if you can show that travel restrictions or stay-at-home orders are preventing you from opening your business, or if you have a COVID-19 infection at the workplace that is preventing you or has forced you to close down business, you can apply to have for these special benefits. And I'm going to toss over to Steve Ruggles, who is going to tell you how you can do that.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for having me here today. It's unfortunate that we're sharing this information, but as Scott indicated, the COVID-19 situation, it's fairly disastrous. Employers, specifically small employers, sometimes they wear dual hats. For example, now you're not only an employer, but you potentially are a customer of the unemployment insurance program. And there are things that you're probably interested in knowing about. And as Scott just mentioned, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program is one of them that self-employed or independent contractors, or even if it's possible part of the program year, you may have been in covered employment, but then became self-employed. So you may have some covered hours and earnings, but not enough for a regular claim. So those folks, they would qualify for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. And at this point, the effective date of that program was backdated to February 8th, and it's payable up through December of this year. In addition to that, there are two other programs that we're operating, and that's the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation. Those folks, including you self-employed individuals, if you are receiving unemployment, there's an additional $600 per week between March 29th and July 25th that will be added to weekly benefit amounts. So whether and that, as Scott had indicated, shared work, it applies to that program as well. So an additional $600 per week during that period of time. The third one is the pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, and that is what we've referred to in the past as extended benefits, basically. If somebody has been receiving unemployment compensation and they've ran out, they've exhausted their benefits, there's an additional up to 13 weeks of benefits that could be made available to those folks. So that's some information that could be applicable to you as a small business owner or to your employees as well. As far as some of what the workload we're seeing now is we are seeing about 180,000 claims per week. That is, I mean, it's astronomical, higher than 7 times, 8 times higher than normal. However, we do have a very robust online system, and 95 to 97% of those are being filed online. Our phone lines, they are long. We have thousands of people trying to get through on the phones. So you may have heard that. Our phone lines are open Monday through Saturday. And then, however, our staff are working 7 days a week, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. within those hours. We're also offering some employer services here. This is brought to light some need for employers that have employees that are going to them with questions. So our website at esd.wa.gov, there you can sign up and get alerts on the COVID-19 situation, and as it's developed, you'll get notified of any changes. There's also in that same site, there's a link for employer resources. You can click on that link. We have just added a letter that, for example, you could customize and give to your employees and helping them navigate the unemployment system. There's a link to WebEx webinars that we are conducting to walk people through filing of their claims. So encourage you to check that out, and lots of good information there.
Great. Hey, Steve, I think we're going to have to get to some questions now. So sorry to cold cut you off there a little bit, but I know that we've got some questions that have come in from some of the audience members that are watching here at home. So Jay, do you want to throw those to our panelists away?
Yes, so now is the time for some Q&A. I've got several queued up, and just as a reminder for those who might be just joining us, on the right side of your screen, there's a control panel and there's a section called questions. If you have questions, you can type them in there and I'll be serving them up to the panel. So the first question is around employment insurance, and folks, I think, worried about employment insurance rates going up based on the number of employees claiming unemployment. So I'm wondering if the employment security folks could talk about that.
Sure. This is Scott Michael. I can jump in on that. So yes, an unfortunate side effect of all of this is that unemployment claims are going up, and as a result, benefit charges are also going to go up. It's a pot of money that is not infinite. While it is probably the most robust trust fund in the nation, we, unlike many other states during the last Great Recession, didn't have to borrow any money. We still have to, when we spend money out of the trust fund, we have to get more money back into the trust fund. And so the only way we do that is through employer taxes. And so the more money we spend out of the trust fund increases the need to bring money back in. And so under state law as it exists now, just as a matter of basic economics, we have to charge people for benefits. But as I mentioned at the top of the hour, shared work is a great way to make sure that your benefit charges do not go up. It is probably the best way to make sure your benefit charges don't go up. And then also all of these new federal benefits that Steve mentioned, pandemic unemployment assistance, the bonus $600, an additional 13 weeks of benefits, all of those are paid for by the federal government. So those will not increase your unemployment taxes because those are paid by the feds instead of the state unemployment trust fund.
Great, thanks, Scott. I've got a question here. Are there resources for organizations that had planned to open for business this year, but due to the health crisis have slowed everything down?
I'll take that one. Right now, there are not resources that are set up. If all the two programs, the two federal programs especially, are set up for those that have been in business. So if they can't show a loss, or if they haven't been open, those programs won't apply. As far as resources for starting up, did I understand, Jay, that they want to start up? They haven't done that yet?
That's correct.
Okay, so the startup, it's basically just it's delaying the start of a new business. From what I'm hearing, I think that's the way I would interpret that. So normal lending practices, applying for loans, bootstrapping it, having your own funds is most likely the way that's going to go at this point. Kaylee?
For startups specifically, the Washington Center for Women in Business has an 8-week program called BEST, and that allows folks to go through a program that helps them build a business plan. At the completion of the course, they have a complete business plan for a new startup, and they're eligible for the South Puget Sound Community College's microloan program once completing that, which can help with some startup funds. Locally as well, another organization, Enterprise for Equity, has a startup training program for new businesses to go through, and they also offer a microloan fund for new business starts at the completion. Also, I know that Enterprise for Equity, if any graduates that are City of Olympia businesses are looking for funding, if you're a graduate of Enterprise for Equity, their micro funds are open right now for businesses needing those funds as well.
Good.
Great, thank you. I have a question here that there are many small businesses that are concerned about taking on more debt right now. Do you have advice or guidance for those that are worried about that, or other resources that might be available to them other than a loan they might have to pay back?
I know that the EIDL loan, I know the requirements and the criteria continue to change, but my understanding is that there are still a forgivable portion of that $1,000 per employee up to $10,000. They can apply for that on sba.gov/disaster. If they're not interested in a loan, and John, chime in if I'm wrong here, like if I've got 8 employees and I don't want a loan, I would put $8,000 in there for the amount requested, and hypothetically, I could get $1,000 of forgivable loan money from the SBA, $1,000 per employee. If I'm a self-employed person, I count as 1 employee myself. That's an option for folks right now. We did receive Thurston County grants. We're working on processing those. Those are grants that'll be given out. We did just shut down the application process, so there's some hope there. And we have a fund that we've set up. We're collecting dollars for Thurston County businesses, and that fund is slowly growing, and we continue to ask larger corporate partners, and we hope to be able to give those out more in the future. So there is a link right now. People can fill out their information on our website at thurstonedc.com on the COVID page, and as grant money becomes available, we're emailing folks out, letting them know what's there.
Okay, and with the economic injury disaster loan, what Kaylee was talking about too is the original, there's a lot of confusion out there that people say, well, I can get $10,000. Well, the SBA and everybody realized that the $10,000 was not going to work. So so they changed it to $1,000 per employee. So just a real quick example, if somebody is approved for $90,000, and let's say they did receive $8,000 initially. So if you apply, you had 8 employees, you got $8,000 cash infusion directly from the U.S. Treasury. at that point, then further down as you complete the application process for the disaster loan, what's going to happen is, let's say you're approved, as I said, I think the number that I gave was what, 80,000. I'm just gonna say you're approved for a total of 80,000. What they're going to do is at that point, they'll say, okay, you already received $8,000. So your loan will be $72,000. So that 8,000 is forgiven. So that is yours to do what you need to for your company. You do not have to pay that back. The loan amount will be actually, that will be reduced by what you had already received. You have 12 months for repayment to start on that. It will accrue interest, but from several of my clients that have received the funds or have been approved, the terms have been, I have one client that got $90,000, and they have, the payback will start a year from when they get the funds, and then they have 30 years to pay back that $90,000 at 3.75% interest. So you also have the ability to pay that loan back immediately. So you can pay it off early. The other thing is, if you're approved, I encourage everybody to apply, because when you're approved, you can turn it down if you choose to. So there's all kinds of great options out there. And it's, again, rules are changing and unrolling. It'll smooth out in, I think, the next few weeks.
I recommend that cash flow webinar too.
Yes, Mike.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I have another question for employment security folks. It says, how do I access the extra $600 to supplement my weekly unemployment as a small business owner?
That is a good question. As long as you have filed your unemployment claim and are getting any unemployment amount, that $600 will automatically be added. You do not need to apply for it. You do not need to do anything extra. It will, and one thing that I did not mention, the programming to pay the pandemic unemployment programs is going into our system on this Saturday. So those payments will go out as of this coming Sunday.
And I think you might have partially answered this, but related to that, I've got a question about someone who's self-employed who has applied for the benefits and they applied for the benefits back in mid-March, and when they might expect to see those benefits coming out.
Yes, that good question. What they'll need to do is that if they have their unemployment claim already established, but they are not receiving any benefits because they don't have any covered employment, they're self-employed, then on Sunday, they will have a link in their e-services account to file for the pandemic unemployment program. They'll click on that link and follow that process to set up their claim. And then once that's done, they'll get retroactive pay back to either the effective date or from when they filed.
Great, thank you. I got one here. What's the best and quickest way to be able to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program?
We were talking, there are a couple of things happening with the Paycheck Protection Program. Word is, if you're going to do this, do it right away. It's on funding what they have funded, and when the funds are gone, then the program's on hold until we get another infusion from Congress and Washington, D.C. There is word out there that the money may run out this weekend. They will have committed everything that was put into it. So if you're going to do that, I would. Filing, you need to usually, it started out going to your bank or a bank, and that has been a challenge for a number of people, and finding the banks, it's a matter of calling them, because with the PPP, they are the bank, or they have lenders coming out that will actually process the loan. But as of today, we were just talking earlier, Cabbage Square, Cabbage with a K, Cabbage, Intuit, Square, and PayPal have been approved to process the loans. One of my clients told me they tried Intuit and they couldn't get through. They went and did their PPP application through Cabbage, and they were able to submit their application. So if you don't have a bank that you're working with, these are new sources to get the funding or to get the process started. And again, even though we don't know where the cash and the total funds are, I would still get the application in because I would hope that there's more money that will be infused in the system. They're talking about it right now. So don't let that stop you. Get that application in and see where it goes from there, but don't hesitate. But that's great that we have more resources now because the banks, they've done a tremendous job at the rollout. They got the banks got their regulations and all the paperwork on a Thursday night, and the program opened on a Friday. So everybody's really done a very good job in processing, even though it's frustrating. It seems frustratingly slow.
Thank you for that. Okay, I've got a question here. Let's see here. Where did it go? Do you need to reapply for a $10,000 EIDL if you applied before the change to $1,000 per employee?
Anything past 329. Is that right, John?
Yeah. And there seems to be, there's a confusion on 10th. It's not necessarily a $10,000 loan. It is $1,000 up for each employee, up to 10,000. But the whole process, the entire loan will be based on what your need is from what your sales had been, what your revenue was. And then what they're looking for is when the COVID-19 hit, your revenue pretty well dropped off of it for many businesses. The revenue significantly dropped. So they're looking at what that difference is, where you were, where it went to, and that's where they come up with a loan amount. So I know there's a little bit of confusion on that $10,000. You know, yeah, go ahead, please.
Just to clarify, so if you've applied on March 29th on that day or after, you do not need to reapply. If you applied the 28th or sooner, you need to.
Yeah, and I would push that date. If you applied before April 3rd, I would still redo that application. If you had to do the new application that they put out, the final application is only 4 pages and it should take you 15 minutes to fill out. It is so simple. And, you know, I was going, wow, this application process is the easiest I think I've ever seen. So if you did the longer one where you had to upload documents, that system crashed and they have the newest one. So if you did the 4 pages where you put in your bank account and you put in the number of employees, you're golden. You got that there.
Okay, we've got time for maybe a couple more questions. Here's one about commercial landlords. Are commercial landlords able to get money to cover rent if businesses that are still open are unable to pay their rent? Is there a resource for that?
What I have heard, again, this is, again, one of those rules that has not been written, or I don't know the answer. My understanding is, I know for residential that they couldn't file until there was a loss. And I believe they were saying that commercial landlords would have that same, be able to file, but they had to wait until they actually did not get paid. But we don't have an exact ruling on this yet that I know of.
Okay, here's a question for Scott and Steve. So you mentioned the large call volumes that you're getting for folks looking for information or to file claims. Do you have any tips or times of the day, days of the week that might be the best to call that might help folks kind of avoid the peak times?
Unfortunately, no, because the volume is high all the time. If there's an easier day or time, it's probably going to be on Saturday. However, this Saturday is the day we're programming, so we won't be taking calls on Saturday. We'll be taking calls on Sunday instead. So that would probably be the best chance, and the shortest wait is either on Saturday or just Sunday of this week.
Okay, thank you. And one more for employment security folks. Someone has had some struggles. They've been trying to apply, but they get an error saying they need to update their Social Security to the SCAP program. And when they call SCAP, they say that's an error that's being worked on. Any estimates for a time frame to fix that?
Not specifically, no. We've made some changes to our, and what that's referring to is the creation of their Secure Access Washington account. We've made several changes over the last few weeks. We have more coming in the next few weeks. There's one that's going into place tomorrow. So continue to try or call the Employment Security's help desk to get around any difficulties they're having.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna serve up one more question. It'll be our last question. I want to point out, for any questions that were unanswered here, we will get them posted up on the city's COVID-19 page under our virtual town hall announcements. We'll post the answers to some of these questions in the future. But the last question for tonight is a limited liability company eligible for pandemic unemployment compensation?
Yes.
Yes.
The members of a limited liability company are potentially eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance, assuming that they can show that the reason the business isn't open or having any business income or reduced business income is tied to COVID-19. So I know limited liability company members are just categorically ineligible for regular unemployment insurance. So yes, please make sure to get your regular unemployment claim filed and denied. Make sure that you have your financial documents available, like your federal tax return for 2019, ready to go. And we'll be happy to help you starting over the weekend.
To loop back on that tenant landlord call, Noelle, thank you from CSCC. She's on the call. She forwarded over. There's a webinar, Landlord Mitigation Tenancy Preservation COVID-19. It's taking place on Tuesday, the 21st, and we'll go ahead. I'll send this to somebody who's posting the questions up publicly for you guys. And it looks like it's put on by, I believe it's the Washington Association of Chamber of Commerce's, and they'll be giving a webinar on those details. So we'll get that posted with the answers for you guys.
Thank you, Noelle.
Perfect, appreciate that. We'll try to get the answers up to these questions just as soon as possible on the city's website, and more to follow. Want to appreciate everyone for typing in your questions. We got some really great questions tonight. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Councilmember Cooper for closing comments.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Just take a moment and see if Mayor Selby has any comments or wrap up from her end.
Hi, everybody. I mostly just want to thank everybody for taking time out to helping us with this town hall meeting this afternoon. I know all of you are extremely stressed and stretched with your time right now. Thanks for, as well, what you are doing to help our community as we look forward to hopefully a recovery over this next year. Question I had, Kaylee, I started to make notes, but you were giving so much information, so much good information about programs that are available through the EDC, but there were several of them that you noted were specifically for Olympia residents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, can you repeat those, and then can we find out how it is that we were able to provide that special assistance?
Yeah, absolutely. These are programs paid through the Community Block Foundation dollars to the City of Olympia. And
Community Development Block Grant, just to clarify.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I left a few letters out. There's a lot of acronyms in this world. So those dollars will pay for our Scale Up courses. So those are going online, and they're specifically around marketing for this current times, financial planning, and building systems and processes for your business. You can find out more about those at scaleupthurston.org. And in addition to those, same funding source to the City of Olympia for the businesses in City of Olympia, we have Scale Up Consulting dollars. And so those can help folks with developing a website, understanding how to market their website online, and work on their pricing of their price points for their actual items or services, and also for accounting support. So understanding how to set up your chart of accounts or get your financial documents put together so that you can become loan ready. We have those resources, and they're paid for by the City of Olympia.
Excellent. And the best way to access those resources, you said, is at the EDC website, or is it the...
I funnel it through the hotline right now because we're fully staffed on that hotline number, the 1-888-821-6652. I will call that line and ask any questions you might have on those.
Okay, thank you.
Specifically, tomorrow applications close for the marketing portion. So 5 o'clock tomorrow for the scaleupthurston.org. You'd want to get your application in before 5 o'clock tomorrow for the marketing component of that.
Okay, and they can get access to that application through the 888 number?
They can, or thurstonscaleup.org.
thurstonscaleup.org. Thank you. And then speaking of that 188 hotline number, there's the other resource that we've talked about briefly, thurstonstrong.org. So there's the website, and then there's the hotline. How would I explain to somebody which one they should use first?
Good question. I would say, it's user choice. If you're comfortable getting online versus calling and talking with someone over the phone, jump on that Thurston Strong website, see all the resources they're listed out. They're listed out by, unemployment, business resources, employee resources. If you don't see the answer to your question there, you want to deep dive, go ahead and give the hotline a number. And if somebody right on the phone can't answer it, we'll get back to you within 24 hours with your correct answer for you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
I would just also say the Thurston Strongs, I think, is a good resource. It's always best to talk to somebody on the phone. I mean, start with phone call. So I would always direct people there first.
If it's midnight though, and they're freaking out, they can go to the website.
That's right.
I've been there. All right. Thank you. That's all I've got.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Selby. So I just in wrap up, thanks to everyone who attended and the panel for sure. It's complex and a lot of challenging times for everyone involved in this conversation, and we're all just doing the best we can to try and put the resources that are available in front of you. And so if you have ideas or questions, don't hesitate to contact the mayor or myself or Mike Reed or Jay Burney, our city manager, but definitely call that hotline, 1-888-821-6652. You can also go to olympiawa.gov, the city website, and we have a COVID-19 page that's updated almost every day at this point, with both kind of what we're doing within the city and then what resources and information are available around the broader region. I want to say specifically thank you to Jay and all of the Olympia staff for making this available and happen. I believe we'll be able to post a recording of it for people who weren't able to watch, but particularly Susan Grisham, Jay Burney, Mike Reed, and then our panelists, Kaylee, John, Steve, and Scott. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I know it's a lot more challenging to come up with time these days than it was even a few weeks ago. And then just a reminder to everybody watching, as the mayor pointed out last night at the end of our city council meeting, the best way for all of us to come out of this together is to stay home and stay safe. And that's the way that we'll keep the curve as low as possible so that the governor can help us try to learn what the new normal, to quote the health secretary, will look like as we attempt to do business in the hopefully not too distant future with social distancing and protection for vulnerable populations in place. So with that, I don't know, City Manager Burney or Mike, any wrap-up comments from your end?
Not for me.
No, just a thank you again to echo the thanks to the panelists here. I've seen a number of these folks on other webinars. I know that this is a frequent request for them, and they also have to do their day job too. So it really does mean a lot that they're willing to step up and help us out with this work. So thanks again.
My
Thanks
pleasure.
for having us.
Great. Okay, thank you, everyone. If you're bored, we have a city finance committee meeting at 5:30, and you can hear conversations about more of how the city is being affected by all of this. So take care, everyone. Thank you.